touched by the cold and corrupt.
Favorite part, but it's not essential.
I don't know how else to speak of it. Like, I'll speak of it in like weird, you know, fucking weird druggy statements.
Viewing, so if you want to avoid this for your sake, you can go to this timestamp to skip it. But of everything that's ever happened here, if one night came to define the pyramid
Lewis Tyson, huh?
for the rest of the world,
That's a good fight.
was the iconic boxing match of Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis. They were competing for the undisputed boxing heavyweight championship
And that was right about when it was like crazy. Yeah, that was like right at the top of the fervor.
of the world.
Right before the corruption killed the world in, you know, 9/11, 2001.
This fight had history. The two knew each other as
Right after, excuse me.
teenagers, where Tyson and Lewis, 17 and 18 at the time respectively, had spent over a week together non-stop sparring and training with each other. Customato, who oversaw the time they spent training together, told them that you two will meet again in the ring one day. Mike Tyson started boxing professionally in 1985, getting a 4-year head start on Lewis, and he became the youngest ever heavyweight champion in 1986 by second round knockout. By then, he was already considered one of the best to ever do it. In 1989, Lewis also went pro, also blitzing to a win with a second round stoppage in his debut. And later, in 1992, became a heavyweight champion himself by winning in just 2 rounds again. The prospect
I didn't even see that hit connect.
92 became a heavyweight champion himself by winning in just
That hit did not connect, did it?
in his debut. And later, in 1992, became a heavyweight champion himself by winning in
No, he did. He fucking straight punched him in the forehead. He did connect. He laid him out, too. But it didn't seem like the kind of blow that would lay him out, though. It looked like he barely even touched him.
his debut. And later, in 1992, became a heavyweight champion himself by winning in just
That did not look like that guy got hit very hard. Maybe I'm tripping.
in his debut. And later, in 1992, became a heavyweight champion himself by winning in just
That straight looked like he threw the fight to me.
2 rounds again.
That looked like he threw the fight to me. He went down like he didn't even get hit, though.
The prospect of
Maybe the angle's just bad on the camera.
these two fighting always seemed
But I'm just tripping.
juicy, but earlier that year, Tyson had been sent to prison, and he wasn't going to
Yeah.
get out until 1995. But even after he was released, in 1997, Tyson got himself suspended from boxing for 15 months. This was because he bit off Evander Holyfield's ear mid-fight. This made the possibility of a matchup with Lewis seem even further away, especially considering Tyson still ultimately lost to Holyfield. On the other hand, in 1999, Lennox Lewis beat Holyfield, becoming the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. And by beating the guy who beat Mike Tyson, he proved that Lennox Lewis was top dog. But regardless of the potential skill difference, with the
My God, I forgot that existed.
public speculating on who was ducking who the whole time, when he got back from his probation and stepped back in the ring, Tyson was still winning matches, and his stock remained high. And whatever the circumstances might have been, at the time, a fight with Lennox Lewis was still Mike's biggest cash opportunity. In June 2000, Mike Tyson called out Lennox Lewis in an iconic post-fight interview where he was absolutely vicious, saying, among other things,
I want to eat his children.
both men were at the tail end of fighting age, both in their mid-30s by now, but that didn't really matter when the history was this long, the hype this big, and the prospect finally seemed like it might be on the horizon. After some brutal negotiations with a fuck ton of mitigating
that's
factors
it.
at
That was
play,
it, huh?
a date was finally set for April 6th, 2002, with a January press conference in New York set ahead of it. This was the same press conference where Mike said arguably his most iconic line, "I'm gonna fuck you till you love me." And what happened at this press conference set in motion the circumstances that put the Memphis Pyramid on the world stage. You see, that "I'm gonna fuck you till you love me" comment came after Lewis and Tyson battered each other on stage mid-press conference. Tyson was waltzing up to get face-to-face with Lewis, but was stopped by someone else. And Mike took some swings at the guy who touched him because he wasn't a big fan of that. This led to Lennox Lewis throwing hands himself at Mike, and Mike eventually trying to chomp a piece of meat out of Lewis's leg. Surprisingly, this scuffle created issues. The bout was originally set
Chomp a piece of meat. What was with Mike Tyson biting people?
to take place in Las Vegas, but the Nevada Boxing Commission, as well as several other states, refused to issue Tyson a boxing license. This is because he was the one who threw the first punches at that scuffle and had, a history of biting a guy's ear off. This put the entire fight, with all of the hype riding on it, in jeopardy. But the mayor of Memphis at the time, Willie Harrington, was an amateur boxer himself, an enthusiast, and here, where others panicked, he saw an opportunity. Mayor Harrington made a $12 million bid to host the fight in Memphis. Memphis at the pyramid. And his gambit ended up paying off because he secured the deal for the city. On the new day of the fight, June 8th, 2002, Memphis saw legions of star power commute into the city. There was more media and social presence here than had ever been in Memphis before or since. The Rock, Donald Trump, Morgan Freeman, Alec Baldwin before he shot someone, and so many more. The list of people who sat or stood in the pyramid I'm in right now is very funny. I'm personally a combat sports fan, and even if this fight went down when these two were past their prime, it is still an all-timer. Because of the press conference scuffle, there was a lineup of dudes in yellow shirts just cutting the ring in half. That way the fighters couldn't start sparking each other before the match even started. The referee, Eddie Cotton, stands between them. He chops his hands, the bell rings, and it's on. Round one, Lewis and Tyson are trading punches. Tyson's getting in close, landing body shots, and Lewis is hitting back.
This was in the pyramid?
Huge.
Oh my god, it must have been so loud.
Lewis spends some time hugging it out in the middle of the round to stop Tyson from closing in with those body shots, but as the round ends, it looks like it went to Mike Tyson. Round two, something changes. Lewis gets told off by the ref for holding on to Tyson too much, but Lewis is still landing hammers on his opponent this round. Meanwhile, Tyson only manages to get a few shots in. In the last minute of round three, Tyson smacks Lewis with a headbutt, then boinks him with a left hook. It's hard to see on camera, but going frame by frame, you can see Lewis's head jerked back from it at 49 seconds left in the round. And you know, sure, Lewis got hit by a head and a hook.
You always tell these boxing guys, because they revere boxing above all else, because they revere violence above all else. It is weird. They'll often tell you right to your face how peaceful they are, but they're obsessed with fisticuffs. They are not peaceful people. This kid's obsessed with fisticuffs. This has nothing to do with the pro pyramid, but he took a boxing match and fucking used it to make the video interesting.
But Tyson's the one leaving this round with a nasty cut above his eye. Round number 4, and Lewis is confident right now. With 15 seconds left on the clock, Mike is in a weird-ass position that gets him pushed to the ground. The crowd goes wild. Mike is looking up at the pyramid's apex over 300 feet above him. The crowd shouts, echoing back down on him as he lies on the canvas. It's not a knockdown. The referee takes a point off from Lewis for pushing Mike, but the tension remains all the same. Round 5, and the referee has been on Lennox Lewis's ass. The crowd is booing the ref over it. Several commentators are saying his calls are bullshit, but it doesn't matter because Lewis is still dominating, leaving Tyson bleeding from both eyes by the round's end. In round 6, Lewis is still in control. Mike gets a few good hits in that get Lewis's face swelling like a pufferfish, but Tyson is clearly tired, and it shows in round 7. In hindsight, a lot of people think that Lennox Lewis was playing with his food, that after everything Mike Tyson had said and done, Lewis wanted to drag this beating out and make Tyson take it as long as he could. Round 8 ticks by, and with 47 seconds left on the clock, Lewis hits Tyson with the same punch he's been hammering him with all night, a devastating right cross. The punch connects and has Mike Tyson hitting the canvas out cold. Tyson takes too long to get back to his feet, and the judge calls Lewis as the winner by knockout. The audience's reaction is amplified by the pyramid's unique architecture, enhancing an already seismic applause. A commentator crowns Lennox Lewis the greatest heavyweight of all time, and the world is watching as history is made in this insane, one-of-a-kind venue. This fight wasn't just the biggest sporting event ever held in the Pyramid or in Memphis. It wasn't even just the talk of the sports world when it happened. Back then, Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis was the highest-grossing pay-per-view event of all time, raking in $106 million, more than it was supposed to take to build the damn pyramid. All of this going down in the Memphis Pyramid. June 8th, 2002 was the night the pyramid fulfilled the vision it was designed to. It acted as a symbol of Memphis that was seen the world over, putting itself and, by extension, the city of Memphis in the international spotlight with striking iconography. It was a glimpse into a world where the pyramid served as the beacon it was always intended to be. And if Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis was the pinnacle of the pyramid, then the Memphis Grizzlies making the arena their home was the gradual slide back down to the bottom. Don't get me wrong, the Grizzlies coming to Memphis was a great addition to the city. They fit right at home in a place that's already so passionate about college basketball. But the pyramid specifically had the first domino of its downfall knocked over when the Grizzlies came to town. Memphis had been trying to get a big-name sports team to call the city home for a while. In the 90s, they tried for an NFL franchise, but were unsuccessful. And then after that, they tried for an NBA team, successfully kidnapping the Vancouver Grizzlies. They crossed state lines with the team and successfully brought them back to Tennessee in 2001. They left the Toronto Raptors and only child, even now still the only Canadian-based team left in the NBA. They legally changed the team's name to the Memphis Grizzlies to cover up their cradle snatching, but there was a problem. The Pyramid was not up to the standards of an NBA team's home court. Penny Hardaway told Forbes, "It was okay for college, but knowing what the NBA is about now, I don't think that building was NBA ready." To convince
what the NBA is about now, which is all those televisions, cameras, and all that shit that they do. I don't think that place is ready for that.
Grizzlies to come to Memphis, the city was going to have to get some things up to
man, the Pepsi Center in Denver is so amazing. I think they've changed the name again, but I mean, I don't know. It used to be called the Pepsi Center for like at least 15 years, I think.
enough. If they wanted to fully upgrade the pyramid, it would mean closing it down for an entire year, which was not in the cards. So instead, the plan was to build a completely new stadium for $250 million. The Grizzlies would move in there when it was done, and in the meantime, the pyramid would get $7 million invested in it so it could serve as the Grizzlies' temporary home. But giving the Grizzlies the pyramid, even temporarily, came with its own set of pimples to pop. Usually money-related stuff. You see, the Grizzlies were allowed to keep any cash that they generated at the pyramid to help sweeten the deal. And while the Grizzlies did pay rent on the pyramid, they did not cover the various other fees like utilities and insurance. And the Memphis State Tigers, who up till now got the pyramid all to themselves, were not huge on having to share their toys without getting anything out of it. So they renegotiated their contract to get a bigger cut of the revenue from parking and advertising now that they had to share the court with another team. The pyramid only hosted the Grizzlies from 2001 to 2004, but they sacrificed a lot of dosh to do so. Apparently in 2002, the arena wasn't even profitable, losing something like $200,000. The new $250 million stadium was completed in 2004, dubbed the FedEx Forum, and ironically, it was built on one of the other 4 locations the pyramid had been considered to build on. After it was done, both the Grizzlies and the Memphis State Tigers packed up shop and moved out of the pyramid. The new stadium kind of destroyed the pyramid's use as a venue, since there was a newer, more state-of-the-art one less than 10 minutes down the road. The pyramid couldn't even successfully transition to a full-time concert venue, as a non-compete clause in the Grizzlies' contract with the city
they had a non-compete clause?
Traffic there even more. It's not a perfect metric, but you can see the decrease in concerts hosted at the pyramid on its concert archives page. At its peak from 1999 till 2000, there were 10 or more concerts played there a year. From 2001 to 2004, that number halved to roughly 5, and after the Grizzlies packed up and left, from 2005 till 2007, you were lucky if you got more than one act playing the pyramid a year. The last concert ever hosted in this building was on February 3rd, 2007. It was a performance by Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band.
Oh my
God. Knew that this was the pyramid's final act. In fact, that was part of why Bob even bothered going to the pyramid. Seger told Forbes, "I insisted that my music manager book us the pyramid on that tour." On that night, at 61 years old, Bob Seger performed a 2.5-hour-long set. All throughout the night, he was acknowledging that the pyramid was about to have its curtains closed, but Seger refused to let this event be a memorial, choosing to celebrate its life instead. In his review of the concert, Bob Mayer from the Commercial Appeal called it a lesson in the art of mass appeal. The crowd got super involved. Seger played his song Ramblin' Gamblin' Man live for the first time in almost 30 years. He called attention to the impending closure of the pyramid to set a mood. It was a banger, you might say. When looking back on his performance there, Seger said, "I loved to play the pyramid. The acoustics were a challenge, but it was such a beautiful, eye-opening venue." He treated it with a sort of reverence, where not in spite of the challenges the venue posed, but rather
it was so
them,
crazy that he was so crazy when you go inside of it that you're like, oh, it's endearing. It's such a madhouse when you go in that you're like, what?
A kind place to perform. After all, it's an honor to close an arena. The day after the concert, journalist David Williams shared the words of Memphis residents who had been to the pyramid for events before. "It's like a Memphis landmark. The FedEx Forum doesn't look half as good as the pyramid. This is a landmark for Memphis, and even though it hasn't
the FedEx Forum doesn't look half as good as the pyramid.
Been around a long time, when you look up and see that in the skyline, you know you're in Memphis." Williams reflected on the legacy that the pyramid left behind that night. He reviewed the various things it was promised to have that were never delivered. While ultimately the pyramid was a letdown from what it was built up to be, it still wasn't nothing. The things that happened in those 4 walls were still real. People still went to that arena and made memories they hold on to and cherish even now. And you know, that means something.
God.
The pyramid closed, leaving the city with complicated feelings towards it. It was good, but was it good enough? A resounding what if left in its wake. Sometime in 1992, about a year into the pyramid's life, the office of Shelby County Mayor Bill Morris got a call from the company responsible for running the pyramid. Tom Jones, who worked in the office at the time, says the call was to make the office aware of a box that had supposedly been found welded into the apex of the pyramid. That's the very top, if you didn't know. Jones and a gang of goons took the long, winding stairs to the top, as there was no elevator at the time, and at the peak, a worker climbed a ladder to free the box from a prison usually only Gordon Freeman could find. The box was then taken back to the mayor's office, and they all gathered with it into a conference room.
What?
In there, they opened up the mystery box, only to find a smaller box inside. This one adorned in blue velvet. It was some Matryoshka doll shit. You get those in the mystery box in Ascension, so this reference works. Upon opening the second box, there was an item inside, itself wrapped in velvet, and when unraveled, revealed a crystal skull that Tom said was about the size of a fist. Supposedly, this event...
There was a crystal skull in the pyramid. Oh my god. Right around when that stupid ass movie came out. Are you serious? Oh my god. These people are so desperate. They're like, oh, Lucas is talking about crystal skulls and aliens. Maybe we could start an alien thing about the pyramid and get it to be a cult classic that people love or whatever. It's so weird. Anyways, I'm sorry, guys. I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Won't be long.
was filmed, but no credible footage has turned up of it happening. The immediate question was, who done it? And the answer became very clear very quickly. It was Isaac Tigert, the founder of Hard Rock Cafe. You see, Isaac is well known for his spiritual beliefs. These interests were part of what pulled him away from working on the pyramid early in its construction, and part of why Sidney Schwenker was hesitant to bring him back on board when John Tigert asked him to, as Isaac had proposed this exact idea of putting a crystal skull in the pyramid during his time on the project. Specifically though, Isaac was a devout follower of the Indian guru Satya Sai Baba. The slogan of Hard Rock Cafe, love all, serve all, is something
Satya Sai Baba?
Isaac said he first heard from the guru. In an interview, Isaac recounts why he first started following the guru's teaching. He credits the Sai Baba with saving his life. Isaac says that sometime in the 70s he was drunk driving, hell yeah brother, recklessly tearing down the road, just going around 90 miles an hour when he drove off the cliff into a canyon. He dropped some 300 feet, which is like the height of the pyramid. Isaac claimed that during the fall, the Sai Baba suddenly appeared next to him in the passenger
Shirdi Sai Baba
seat of his car and put his arm around Isaac. As his vehicle rolled over multiple times, just being shredded to pieces, Isaac miraculously walked out of that wreck without a single injury, and he believes Sai Baba to be the reason he did. When Isaac found out the crystal skull had been removed, he allegedly said they have no idea what they've done. When contacted, Isaac supposedly told county officials he had witnessed the skull materialize in the Sai Baba's hands mid-conversation, and that when Tigert told the guru of his plans to build the pyramid, he gave Isaac the skull with specific instructions on what to do with it. The Sai Baba said where the skull should be placed, how it should be placed, even what direction it should face, and he warned that if the skull was removed, the consequences would be dire. Jones recalls that Isaac had it affixed up there because of the cosmic impact it could have at the top of the pyramid. In essence, Isaac Tigert believed the pyramid to be cursed and that the crystal skull would help protect it from whatever that curse may be. And after its removal, Isaac insisted the skull be returned to him. At first, the mayor's office resisted, but orders came from on high.
Hey, the pyramid still stands, doesn't it?
Mayor Bill Morris.
He put it out to the universe what he wanted, and he got it. It's the secret. It's stupid, but it's true.
Himself told them to return the skull, as it wasn't worth the trouble it could cause with Tigert to hold on to it. One specific and very peculiar thing Tom Jones recalls is Isaac saying, well, they found one of them. For his part, Isaac says that these claims of what he said are utter nonsense, but apparently doesn't dispute that there are other mystical artifacts in the pyramid's walls. His idea of a curse was probably a little more extreme than most, but Isaac was far from the only person to say the pyramid was bewitched. Even Alex Jones, while loitering a safe distance away from the pyramid, claimed there was some secret cult shit going on in there. But that guy...
Really? So Alex Jones thinks the pyramid is a hotbed for I don't know. Hot interest.
Dumb and not who I'm talking about when I say people thought the pyramid was cursed. The Big Dig rained down what was supposed to be the first day of construction. The bathrooms flooded on the first day of operation. Hell, some consider the shape of the pyramid alone inherently steeped in misfortune. It's the shape of structures that have long been bloody and ominous throughout their history. And with what became of the Memphis Pyramid in the mid-2000s, it may have been hard for some folk not to feel vindicated. Following the pyramid's closure, many of the folks who had long been critical of it were, if not happy, at least relishing in their ultimate I told you so moment. Frank Murtaugh wrote a piece called The Not So Great American Pyramid, where he just laid into the pyramid after its closure. This guy is kind of a legend to me. Like, he is the type of grade A D1 athlete, Olympic level hater that I strive to be in my most passionate bouts of pettiness. He goes into detail, calling out everything from shit parking to shit food, a shit location, shitty seats, a shit view, which I personally disagree with. But then he calls the building straight up human unfriendly. I don't even agree, and that's some of the hardest shit I've ever heard. His opening line on this piece is, has anyone seen the shovel from the Big Dig? They sure could use it right now to help dig the Great American Pyramid out of its debt and its non-compete clause. It's one thing when somebody is petty for petty's sake, but a public figure or institution's worst nightmare is a well-informed hater. And Frank knows more about the Memphis Pyramid than 99% of Earth's population. The pyramid and I go way back. His words, not mine. The pyramid was originally supposed to shutter for good in 2004 when the Grizzlies left, but the Memphis City Council bought it some time when they voted not to close its doors just quite yet. But even then, concert performances were semi-annual at best, and after Bob Seger's send-off, there was nothing. Throughout the years of inactivity,
after the Bob Seger send-off. Even Bob Seger's singing at the end of the apocalypse, or whatever.
Exterior are a bit depressing when compared with the spectacle that took place in the pyramid's prime.
Fucking Bob Seger.
Some from Joe Spake on Flickr shared the reality as it was. The grounds outside the pyramid that you were still allowed to walk on were overgrown with weeds snaking out of cracks in the concrete. The pyramid billboard that once lit up showcasing the excitement of the day now seemed to sag with its lights turned off. The toll gates near the train crossing didn't fare much better either. The paint on the traffic barriers was chipped away and the windows were boarded up on the sides of control booths. A banner saying "Welcome to the Pyramid Arena" clashes with the "No Trespassing" sticker now smacked on top of it. Despite that sign, Bill Smith chose to get a closer look around the pyramid in its dormant state, and it looked as if the structure had been left to fall into disrepair. The tarps on the waiting tent lines were hanging around haphazardly. Some of the beams that held those tarps up were scattered across the floor, and some of them were willing to take on a challenge.
No, you fucked up.
Completely falling apart. Mold and mildew is built up around the corners of walls, just looking grody as hell from neglect. In some cases, where the tarps weren't sagging off, they had been completely removed. Wiring was freely exposed as they hung out from the beams. Speaker systems were abandoned outside with
Oh good, they just full-blown abandoned this, like, what was it again? It was like a $200 million, like back in the 90s, $200 million fucking amphitheater. They just abandoned it. That sounds like the corrupt assholes that I know.
The wires cut, looking as miserable as the Sonic fandom on any given day. In other
oh my god.
parts of the pyramid, more of the same can be seen. Much of the stone on the structure showed visible water damage around its corners. Dirt, debris, and other detritus piled up in the corners of the outdoor stairs, the hand railings rusting over, paint chipping off. No hands had gripped those poles in a long time. A true no-fap success story. The mold looks even worse in other places, almost like dried broth that's crusted to the pavement. Side entrances can be seen locked up and forgotten from the outside. Trash is hoarded into a pile that will make a junkyard dragon proud, even though it's right next to a trash can that still has a bag in it for some reason. And at the bottom of some drop near the pyramid, between more moldy walls and unmanaged overgrowth, somebody left a random fucking office chair. I don't know, that's just the funniest picture here. I actually managed to find that gap. The inside didn't fare much better either. Only one person officially worked the pyramid grounds at this point, the same John Moore from earlier, who had been at the pyramid since its first night opening. The inside is harder to get pictures of on account of those locked doors, but in 2009, Zach McMillan wrote an article for the Commercial Appeal where, in part, he interviewed John Moore, who gave a walkthrough of the hollowed-out pyramid. Zach recounts the state of what he saw. Thousands of empty seats, the bare concrete floor, the giant scoreboard, silenced. Dusty Grizzlies.com and pyramid logo tarps, the advertisements for now-defunct radio stations, the giant American flag still unfurled. It's harder to see the sticky soda stains, the event menu still posted in the suites, the TV still strapped to platforms above the suites. The Grizzlies' posh locker room appears untouched from what appears to have been its last use for an arena football team. The hot tub is deep and stained chlorine blue, the teak wood for the sauna in pristine condition. An old desktop computer sits, a Memphis Tigers logo stuck to it. In many areas, old cables reach to a non-existent TV, just as the silhouettes of non-existent desks pattern dusty carpets. Kitchens are stripped of stoves and other appliances. The only thing the pyramid was getting used for at this point was the occasional fire department drill. Many on the force had fond memories of visiting the pyramid in its active years. McMillan describes them as all having some version of the same sentiment. Sure is a shame the place is empty. The pyramid withered away as the city of Memphis tried to figure out what to do with it. Bass Pro had shown interest in the pyramid since at least 2005 when they signed their first non-binding letter of intent.
Bass Pro really wanted the pyramid. They're like, oh, we could use the, Bass Pro could really use a pyramid.
Publicly speculated and shared the word of Bass Pro's potential.
I demand that humanity makes me a pyramid before I die, and then I'm gonna get all entombed up in it when I'm dead, and I'll take a whole bunch of slaves with me. No, I'm just kidding. I don't believe in slavery. People, I'm sure by that point, people will want to die in my Memphis pyramid, right?
Potential involvement around then as well, but it stayed as speculation for some time. There were constant
come die with me in my Memphis pyramid
Reassurances that Bass Pro plan to move forward with their plans at the pyramid, signing new letters of intent, publicly announcing
Bass Pro announces that we really want the pyramid and we're the only corporate entity that wants it, so we want this pyramid now.
That they were going to redevelop it, but the process drew on long, with extension after extension being given. Many folks in Memphis weren't too hopeful about the odds of it ever actually happening, especially with how absurd the concept of a Bass Pro pyramid seemed from the get-go. Never out of the conversation as a potential partner, but the years dragged on as negotiations between them and the city of Memphis stalled.
The Bass Pro period was the Bass Pro pyramid just really doesn't roll off the tongue. It's very triangular, very rough and sharp.
And nothing had been set in stone.
Bass Pro Shop's pyramid just doesn't really, it just doesn't roll off the tongue, does it?
On what Bass Pro was planning to do. In the absence of
a... I love how Bass, like a new corporate entity enters the ring.
Clear plan of action, many options from other parties were proposed.
How many bad corporate entities did we get in one place here?
On what to do with the husk of the once debatably great American pyramid. For a while, the most
American
popular
pyramid
idea was turning the pyramid into a casino.
The American pyramid.
The Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas launched in 1993, stealing the Memphis Pyramid's title of America's tallest pyramid.
Oh, what? Oh, the Luxor beat the fucking pyramid? No. And on top of it, it's not even the best pyramid anymore. Oh, come on. The Luxor is probably so awesome. Let's look at the Luxor pyramid, right? The Luxor pyramid. I've seen it before. I've seen a Sphinx pyramid thing, too, in Vegas as well, I believe. Luxor pyramid. Cool. I stay in a pyramid hotel. Look at that big ass fucking pyramid. See, this makes sense in a cartoon character reality like Vegas. It really doesn't make sense for Memphis. Memphis is still a little bit too sane for an American pyramid. But this fits in the whole cartoon character reality of Vegas,
And it had seen a lot of success as a gambling venue ever since.
Yeah, sure, yeah, it's like, yeah.
Certainly a market for it here in Memphis. As with the lack of suitable gambling locations at home, Memphians would cross state lines to gamble or go online to gamble in the then young industry.
Now, what did I just see?
Pyramid after only 2 years of holding it, and it had seen a lot of success as a gambling venue ever since. There was certainly a market for it here in Memphis. As with the lack of suitable gambling locations at home, Memphians would cross state lines to gamble or go on
$500.
online to gamble in the then young industry. The argument seemed simple. People gamble anyway, so why not keep that money at home? Even renowned hater Frank Murtaugh, my beloved, thought highly of this idea, even despite the legal troubles it might face. He figured if a project like the pyramid could get made in the first place via the wheeling and dealing of powerful men with money, certainly there was a path for gambling to become legal as well. I mean, there's a lot of money in that. A company even offered to do a study on the viability of the pyramid as a casino pro bono, no strings attached. Turning the pyramid into a casino seemed to many like the obvious pick. However, there were some concerns. Many were hesitant to move forward with the idea without first having the pyramid analyzed by a firm, one that could be willing to take on a challenge like that. To the public, it may have seemed like the deal with Bass Pro was stalling and would never cross the finish line. But if a curse the pyramid was under, causing failure after failure, was fate making itself known, then the stars aligning that led to Bass Pro finding a home inside the building's triangle
Ducks Unlimited
shaped guts was destiny guiding the pyramid to what it was always meant to.
Why is there boats inside of the pyramid? How are you going to get them out? How did you get them in?
be. The story starts with
Oh my god, you guys
Bill
are so
Dance,
goddamn dumb.
a professional fisherman and the TV show host of Bill Dance Outdoors. Bill had been a Memphis local for
Jesus Christ, I think I remember this guy from when I was like 10 years old. I think my grandfather showed me him doing some crappie fishing when I was like 10 on a VCR tape. I think I remember this guy.
some time, and a well-known one. He was a figure even Penny Hardaway.
Yeah, Bill Dance. Yeah. I think I've, I kind of remember him from like way back in the fucking day.
Recognized from seeing on TV growing up. As a big fisherman, Dance had the ear of big fish, as in the big fishing industry. And one of the key figures he knew was the founder of Bass Pro Shops, Johnny Morris. Johnny found out about this vacant pyramid through his relationship with Dance. Bill Dance served as a sounding board of sorts. Morris would pick his brains as their local expert on Memphis, and as the person that John tried to defer to on the decision of opening a store there or not. According to Dance, at the time of these discussions, Bass Pro is going on a spree of opening new locations. During this time, Bill Dance, Johnny Morris, and Jim Hagel, then president of Bass Pro, would fly from state to state, just bouncing between different openings, and on those flights, Jim and Johnny would push for Bill Dance to make a decision on the pyramid for them. Bill told Forbes that Johnny Morris said, "Bill, you live in Memphis. You know the people in Memphis. You know the store that's there already. You know the clientele. You need to make a decision as to whether we should do this or not." I said, "Y'all are crazy as a sprayed roach. I'm not making that decision." And to me, that's fair enough. I can barely make choices for myself, much less multi-million-dollar decisions for a massive company. When Morris and Hagel asked for a final answer, a straight-up yes or no, Dance didn't end up giving them something concrete. What he did tell them, though, was convincing enough for them to keep considering Memphis as the place to build their biggest store yet. I told them that Memphis is Mid-America's distribution center. It's the barbecue capital of the world, the lumber capital of the world, the cotton capital of the world. It's the home of rock and roll. It's the birthplace of the blues. The pyramid can be seen by air, by land, and by water. It lies between two major interstates, and tourism would support it. The matter was not settled by the time the plane had touched down. As Joe Sills put it, it would be up to nature to decide the pyramid's fate. The curtains close, time passes, and the scene changes. It's now 2005. Four fellas are together in Memphis on a two-day outing for one of the most sacred pastimes of all time, catfishing. Not
Fishing.
like Tinder or Omegle catfishing, just trying to catch a big-ass normal catfish. The crew is made up of Bill Dance and Johnny Morris, as well as two newcomers. Jack Emmett, the first ever head of Bass Pro's fishing department, and James Big Cat Patterson, who is the epitome of fish fear me. Lyle Stokes said that when Patterson's name would come up in conversation, catfish quiver in nearby waters. Before they set out to go on a few days of fishing, Morris decided to say some fuck shit. Some people flip a coin for big decisions, but I told them if we catch a big catfish today, it's meant to be. If we don't, that's a sign that maybe we better keep fishing and not worry about the pyramid. He was effectively leaving the fate of this insanely expensive and risky project up to complete chance. From a certain point of view, Bill Dance, understandably, called Morris a dumbass, but with much more creative wording than mine. I've known you for more than 35 years, and that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard come out of your mouth. You're gonna let a catfish decide a $500 million deal? Listen, Bill, he tried to ask you, but you refused to answer. My guy had to figure out something. Morris himself said the choice to risk it all on a gamble came from a place of indecision and needing to finally overcome it, some way, somehow, even if it meant doing something that seemed a little dumb. I was just right on the ragged edge of undertaking the project. The time, the financial commitment, I was torn about it. The first day of their catfishing trip was Wednesday, November 9th, 2005. And unfortunately, they came up dry. No fish in the Skyblock infinite water source to be found. On the second day of the trip, the catfishing expert, Patterson, picked a route where you could almost see the pyramid on the skyline. If the right lighting conditions were in place, it would just poke out. Earlier that same day, Morris says he started getting calls from Bass Pro president Jim Hagel, who was asking him for the final word on if they were moving forward with the pyramid or not. At this point, Morris employed a stall tactic he would use several times, going, I don't know, always asking for just a little more time from Jim. 3 hours pass and no fish turn up. Hagel calls again around noon, and Morris plays interference again. He's saying they still need a little more time before he hangs up on Jim himself so he doesn't have to hear back about it. Another 3 hours passes, and still nothing. Around 3 p.m., Jim calls a third time, and Morris reckons that Jim Hagel was absolutely fuming at this point, as even now, Morris still did not have an answer for him. But as they're going back and forth over the phone, Jack Emmett, who had been almost half asleep, gets a mighty tug on his rod. Seeing that thing flail around like a flaccid lightsaber lightsaber, Jack bolted over to reel it in. The commotion caused a ruckus, and Hagel can hear the noise over the phone with no clue of what's happening on the other end. He's asking what the fuck's going on over the phone right before Jack finishes reeling in his catch, pulling up a huge 34-pound blue catfish, one that Morris swears they caught almost under the shadow of the pyramid. With excitement permeating the air, Morris finally has an answer for Jim. We're gonna do it. Hagel then relayed that information to Mayor Harrington, the same man responsible for Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis at the pyramid. Those words are now engraved on a sign above the main entrance of the pyramid. Also there is a picture the three of them took on the day that they caught that big-ass fish. That catfish, much like the crystal skull in the bathroom flooding before it, has been described as an omen of the pyramid's future.
Wow, that's a big fucking catfish. Oh, damn.
Crystal skull in the bathroom flooding before it has been described as an omen of the pyramid's future. Except perhaps for the first time, it was a bright and hopeful one. The timing of the catch was down to the wire as well. Only 10 minutes after Jack caught the fish, Jim Hagel had a press conference where he was set to announce Bass Pro's intentions. Without having made that big catch, the whole project would have been dead in the water and the conference would have been called off. Morris swears to the Lord that this story is how Bass Pro Shops at the pyramid came to be, and Dance had some kind words for the catfish that has more impact on culture than most of us could hope to achieve in a lifetime. If anyone catches that fish, give it a pat on the head and a kiss. She's still swimming out there somewhere, and the pyramid wouldn't be here today without her. Soon after, around late 2005, Bass Pro signed their first letter of intent.
God damn it! Why 5?
They said they were truly planning
Why
to
5?
the
It's
pyramid
just
into their biggest store ever. The next year, in February 2006, Bass Pro publicly
goddamn
announced their plans
shitty
to move into the
developers.
pyramid. They said they would be investing at least $75 million into the project. They gave a projected opening of 2006 with early promises of a climbing wall, test drive boats, restaurants, a hotel, a canopy that looked like a fish hook, and an elevator that also looked like a fish hook. After many proposals of what to do at the pyramid had come and gone, Smart City Memphis was of the opinion that this was the first one that looked like it might actually happen. The years continue to pass by. It's now 2007, and it's been months since Bob Seger's farewell performance at the pyramid. But for the public, things are looking a little rocky. In August 2007, Bass Pro announced that their original investment of $75 million was being lowered to a measly $45 million. The originally planned launch year for the Bass Pro Pyramid rolls around, where in January 2008, ground still hasn't been broken. And having been let down by the pyramid before, some folks in Memphis became skeptical that Bass Pro's plans would ever be realized. For his part, though, the city official in charge of overseeing the project, Robert Lipscomb, said that he was still confident the deal would happen. But the people of Memphis's fear was real and not unwarranted. Memphians were concerned that they were waiting on something that would never happen, and other ideas that had been proposed were being passed over for a stillbirth, something that would never get delivered. The rest of 2008 passes by quickly, and it wasn't until December that the public gets the official word the Bass Pro deal is still a go. The month before, in November 2008, Bass Pro had signed a deal that gave them 12 months to finish planning and getting the permits for construction together before signing on to a long-term lease with Memphis for the pyramid. The agreement required them to pay $35,000 a month and pay out a $500,000 penalty if they ended up pulling out of the deal altogether. Memphis and Shelby County had both approved the development plan, but Shelby County was considering selling its stake in the pyramid to the city of Memphis. Not only would they get a $3.5 million payment out of it if they did so, but they argued that merging the pyramid's ownership into a single entity would make negotiations with Bass Pro easier, as then only one party would have to approve decisions going forward. That acted as a sort of soft statement of Shelby County and Memphis's confidence in the deal. If they were making decisions at least partially based on how those choices could help or hinder negotiations with Bass Pro, then it gave hope that a deal with Bass Pro was still likely to happen. The next year, on April 22nd,
2009,
Shelby County voted to go through with selling their shares of the pyramid to Memphis. But even though the ship was moving, sharks still swam in the water. The public consensus had long been that these negotiations were stalling for some time, and taxpayers were still responsible for paying the pyramid's debt regardless of if Shelby County sold their shares or not. Despite the outward stagnant appearance, though, plans were starting to take shape. In August 2009, there was even a very rough concept sketch of the indoor cypress swamp the pyramid would become. A few tenuous months later, on October 6, 2009, the city council again announced that the Bass Pro deal was still moving forward. They said they would do their best to give details on what the next year would look like and why the project was still actually on track, even if it seemed like it had been in limbo for ages. One of Bass Pro's main concerns were infrastructure issues with the pyramid, namely its ability to handle seismic events like earthquakes. To make the deal happen, the city said it would address Bass Pro's concerns by investing another $20 million of its own money to get the building up to code. The hope was for this funding to come from federal grants at no extra cost to the taxpayers of Memphis. For Bass Pro's part, Jim Hagel said that they were as committed as ever, claiming they hoped to seal the deal within the next 1 to 2 months. The sooner the better, as far as we're concerned. The message was clear. Robert Lipscomb elaborated that while nothing flashy had been shown in public yet, someone cooler than Sisyphus was pushing this rock up the hill. They hadn't been just sitting on their hands doing jack shit, waiting for Bass Pro to say, you know what, sure champ, you can't have that multi-billion-dollar investment. President Hagel said that founder Johnny Morris was still very excited for the project, and they were all very optimistic about what they were putting together. The week of December 2nd, 2009, Bass Pro officials came to Memphis in order to analyze the pyramid, particularly in regards to their concerns over seismic issues. As the deal from almost a year prior reached its end, another delay cropped up when Bass Pro asked for a 90-day extension on the deal, one that would give them some extra time going into the early months of 2010. Those at City Council said they viewed it as a positive sign, that Bass Pro wouldn't ask for an extension this late into the game if they weren't serious about finishing it. The months go by, 2010 comes into reality, and several months pass before any major word comes in. On April 20th, 2010, Bass Pro President Jim Hagel was in Memphis with his team to haggle. That whole Tuesday, President Hagel and Mayor A.C. Wharton sat in Memphis City Hall. They were attempting to finally ink out and seal this deal that had been half a decade in the making. The results were highly anticipated, with the Bass Pro Pyramid now projected to open in November 2011. Several months later, after years of a back and forth, a will they, won't they of city planning, romance occurred. On June 30th,
July 2nd, 2010, fuckhead.
the lease agreement was officially signed and was released to the public shortly after. The long-term lease was set for 55 years, where Bass Pro would pay rent based on a percentage of their sales. Mayor Wharton described it as, the better they do, the better we do. That said, Bass Pro would still have to pay a minimum rent of $880,000 in the first year of their lease, and a minimum of $1 million per year for every year after signing. Also laid out in the lease were the first plans of actual redevelopment, where the city of Memphis would invest $30 million into the pyramid to address the seismic concerns Bass Pro had raised, where the goal was to upgrade it to be capable of withstanding a magnitude 2 earthquake. It was a long time coming, and Wharton said that the amount of time this took was, quite frankly, a bag fumble with no excuse, but still, whatever hadn't gotten done before, the deal was real and happening now. An aerial photo taken in August 2011 is the last time you can see the pyramid in its untouched state. By November 2011, internal demolition had finally begun to turn the pyramid into a swampland fantasy. O.T. Marshall architects were hired to make the seismic upgrades the pyramid required, and the slumbering pieces that had once made up an arena were gutted. Chairs were removed, stands got leveled, destroying what came before to make room for something new. The demolition team wrapped up sometime in 2012, removing the debris of the structure they had destroyed. You can see the interior of the pyramid near the end of the demo team's work in this video. Some guys are biking laps around the now widened out, potentially moating pyramid in a video posted on June 14th, 2012. These pipes with Memphis's branding on them were destroyed as part of the deal with Bass Pro. That way they wouldn't obscure the view of the pyramid, and you would always be greeted by a giant fish logo whenever you drive into Memphis. That massive Code Geass Pizza Hut looking fish was actually a point of contention itself. Several people were concerned that the fish being your first impression of the city would lower its reputation in people's eyes, perhaps even scaring some folk off from visiting or even living in Memphis. Bass Pro's initial proposal was to have a Bass Pro logo measuring in at 90 by 66 feet with all the colors of the original logo copy and pasted onto all 4 sides of the pyramid. Some nearby residents did not want to have to see that shit at all hours of the day from all angles, and Bass Pro's compromise was to make the signs even bigger. The new ones came in at 115 by 78 feet, but this time with the colors toned down. LEDs were added acting as the pop factor instead, and the logo was only going to be on a few sides of the pyramid instead of all of them. One of the sides that wouldn't have a big fuck-off fish on its face was the north side, which faced a residential community on Mud Island. I mourn the beauty they missed out on seeing every morning. At the time the article was published, the Bass Pro Pyramid's projected opening date was December 2014, so things were still taking a bit longer than people would have hoped. On June 21st, 2012, though, Bass Pro finally made their official claim on the pyramid, when Johnny Morris, alongside Bill Dance, held something of a spiritual successor to the Big Dig, where Bass Pro hosted its own construction kickoff celebration. Media frenzied down on them as something finally started happening at the arena for the first time in God knows how long. In a November 2012 aerial photo, you can see that they tore out the withered and molding concrete structure around the pyramid pretty soon after. That thing got absolutely atomized. A month later, in this picture taken on the day the Mayans thought the world would end, the pyramid was seen sporting a fresh haircut / circumcision. The seats and all the other arena-era internals were thrown into a landfill somewhere, with only the bare necessities left behind. Progress might have seemed slow, as even in mid-2013, the long-promised elevators still hadn't been added, but there is something mesmerizing about looking up at a bunch of isolated squares that feel like they're almost looking back at you. In aerial photos taken in the last few months of 2013, you can see the newly built concrete structure around the pyramid fully erected, and in early 2014, city council members as well as members of the press were allowed inside the pyramid during its construction. They were able to confirm that yes, shit is actually happening and that things were actually getting done. It was certainly still a work in progress, but for the first time in what it might have felt like forever, the pyramid had progress. The momentum carried onward as more aerial photos showed construction outside of the pyramid in full swing as well. The structure's transformation was visible from anywhere you looked. Windows were being added to the top of the building to accommodate and enhance the new restaurant, bar, and observation deck that were to be placed at the building's peak. And while the changes to the pyramid were becoming apparent no matter where you looked at it from, they were especially dramatic inside. The architecture was starting to come together into the one-of-a-kind vision that we know the pyramid as today. The director of conservation at Bass Pro, Martin McDonald, was doing his job and hyping this shit up all the while, arguing that 600 jobs would be created in Memphis from the new Bass Pro store. A lot of people in the area believed this could be part of the revitalization Memphis truly needed. It's seated in an area where the appeal to hunters and fishermen that Bass Pro had was in huge demand. It could serve as a sort of retail mecca for sportsmen, as Bass Pro themselves put it. Work continued up until the absolute last second, with crews doing detailing work on the pyramid the day before it was set to go public. Ahead of the official opening, Bass Pro executives like Tammy Sapp got to experience it firsthand. She confronted her fear of heights by being one of the first people to walk atop the now completed glass observation deck. Where the pyramid's initial opening in 1991 was a mediocre display compared to the Big Dig a few years prior, the opening of the rebranded Bass Pro shops at the pyramid was a spectacle all its own. On Wednesday, April 29th, 2015, over 9 years ago now, Bass Pro threw just short of a corporate-sponsored rager. The flying LV skydiving team parachuted into the parking lot outside of the pyramid ahead of the launch. Crowds of folk gathered outside the pyramid with a who's who of outdoor sporting royalty present on the scene. There was duck hunting world champion John Stevens, then Bass Pro-sponsored NASCAR driver Tony Stewart.
How do you get to a world championship at duck hunting? I guess you just kill a lot of ducks?
Dozens of other names showed up as well. You may or may not recognize a lot of them, but they were huge draws for the folks that would be interested in a destination like the pyramid, especially once they heard the biggest Bass Pro shop ever was going to be stuffed inside. Crowds awaited speeches from some of the folks who first put this entire mindfuck into motion. Johnny Morris and Bill Dance were both in attendance, recounting in so many words the passion and love that went into finally getting this thing done, thanking everybody who had contributed to making it possible. Action 5 News filmed the opening, and the entrances looked absolutely packed. Folks they interviewed at the time had glowing praise for what Bass Pro had been able to transform the pyramid into. A few months after its launch, even renowned pyramid hater Frank Worth, writing for Memphis Magazine, said that as far as actually getting people to go to the pyramid, this thing might actually work. The Grizzlies hosted their last game at the pyramid on April 14, 2004. 4 months before, I saw Kiss one more time. Bass Pro's arrival will redefine multi-purpose for
and he's talking about 2015.
But with live alligators, a bowling alley, observatory, hotel, and more equipment than most avid outdoorsmen could house in anything smaller, the arena will likely see more action than, yes, even a Kiss concert. The hope is that the new venture is so grand, so distinctive, and so unlike anything else on the planet that the snickering and fisherman jokes, you've heard them if you haven't told them, are soon viewed, metaphorically, as merely a loud, shallow creek running its course. Considering a complete outsider schmuck like me is here making a video like this, this, I reckon it's fair to say that he was right in that the plan panned out. Bass Pro Shops at the Pyramid saw 3 million visitors barrel through its doors in the first year of operation. Sales are something like $45 to $55 million year over year. Aggregated from thousands of reviews across multiple platforms, the Pyramid fielded ratings of 4 to 4.5 stars across Google Reviews, TripAdvisors, and Yelp. It's an astounding critical.
Man, there's like a whole class of people out there that just spend money all day. That's like their job. And this is where they do it. Stuff like this.
Success from the folks who found the time to give it a shot. Even Penny Hardaway, a legendary athlete with deep personal ties to the Pyramid when it was still an arena, and perhaps one of the people with the most valid skepticism of Bass Pro inside of it, sang the Pyramid's praises. I was wrong. It's a gift to the city, and I have been back inside many, many times now. We take recruits up there right to the top. It's beautiful. The Pyramid being used as a Bass Pro shop might leave the residents of Memphis with mixed feelings still. And you know, fair enough, a giant fish logo stares at them whenever they drive into their city, but even then, many are just happy something ended up getting done with the Pyramid at all. Anecdotally, one Reddit user, Bassinox24, and many others in the same thread said they felt it was a net positive. The large buildings downtown are becoming vacant with no signs of reoccupation. These are large buildings that take up valuable space, represent a lack of jobs, and soak up tax dollars at some attempt of maintenance. The Pyramid was abandoned for a time, but has found a new life, which is more than I can say for the majority of downtown. That was a sentiment shared by one Christian. I think it's better than having a giant empty paperweight. Bassinox went on to vouch for his own experience meeting Bill Dance and Johnny Morris, and that it seemed like they had pure intentions at heart. Bassinox got the impression that they truly wanted to contribute to Memphis through their work at the Pyramid. By almost all accounts, Bass Pro making a home in the Pyramid has been a resounding success for Memphis, both financially and culturally. At its inception, the absurdity of the concept made many people question if a Bass Pro Pyramid made any sense at all. But zooming out, the absurdity that made folk ask what the hell the designers were thinking was why the Pyramid caught the attention of the wider world. It turned this building into an internet icon of its own by sheer virtue of existing. The what the fuck is this factor of the Bass Pro Pyramid became a core part of its appeal, demonstrated by the video you're watching right now. A dormant, one-of-a-kind building was looking for a new tenant to take up residence in its walls. It found a one-of-a-kind company with a one-of-a-kind vision of what the inside of those walls could be, and all these one-of-a-kinds working together created a one-of-one destination, where the sum of this place's parts not only succeeded in captivating the audience it targeted, but whose reach extended far past anything they could have imagined. Decades of circumstances and change, failures and successes, pieces falling apart and falling into place, whether it was willed there by fate or...
Oh my god. This was a good video. It actually was very entertaining. I can't believe that. I'm sorry guys, I am brain dead and exhausted and I'm going to stop now. I have been at this for 11 hours and I have been having a lot of fun and I'm going to stop now. What did we do today? We did Fallout 76, Skyline Valley, finished it, I think. New World and EvE and FFXI and Rust and, or no, I didn't play Rust today. But, yeah, I think I'm probably going to stop here, you know. Just a reminder, you've been watching Skycat Live. I'm a full-time variety gamer all day, every day. Put me on in the background. Click on the cat's face to donate. Come to Twitch, sub to me, give me a like, sub, or a follow. This video was recorded. It was, I think, 11 hours long. Yes, this 11-hour video was recorded and will be placed on my YouTube channel along with thousands of other videos. And if you would like to see more of me or the games that I am playing, you can come and check out the channel. This is my life's work now, and I love it. And you guys are giving me lots of attention and stuff. Thank you so much. It's good to see. I caught a 47 view video the other day. It was good, you know. Just trying to work my way up very slowly. I love you guys. Thank you so much, and y'all have an excellent day. You know, come to skycat.live and click on the cat's face to donate, or come give me a like, sub, or a follow at Twitch or YouTube. And, you know, tune into my channel in the next day. This 11-hour video will be available. Thank you so much for your time. Love you. Bye.